The subtle art of propaganda campaigns directed against one's enemies has been a feature of war since ancient times. However, its potential for mass psychological impact created a new paradigm with the invention of modern electronic communications. Every nation involved in the Second World War, whether of the Allies or Axis, possessed an agency devoted to the mission of demoralizing and misleading the enemy, and virtually all artistic genres participated. In America, Frank Capra, director of beloved films such as It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, also directed wartime films demonizing the Germanic personality. In a notable example, a training film warns young GIs that German women do not share a natural capacity for human ethics common to higher civilizations, and therefore must be avoided. Theodore Geisel, beloved to Western children as Dr. Seuss, wrote stories stereotyping, demeaning, and demonizing the Japanese, complete with insulting and offensive illustrations. Radio Free Europe filled the airwaves with pro-Western speech as a counter to communist expansion and diatribes about the otherness of enemy societies. As in virtually all wars, racism also made up a central component of the propaganda efforts going both ways between Japan and the United States in the 1940s. Racial superiority and a state of arrested evolution were ever-present themes. Leaflets were dropped on many European cities urging surrender and accentuating the hopelessness of resisting. With the honing of effective radio propaganda and the use of alien rhetorical talent, specific broadcasts from Europe and Asia targeted the rank and file of Allied soldiers fighting in every venue of the Second World War. These figures were often drawn from a pool of prisoners of war or expats disenchanted with their home countries. The mission required English speakers with a linguistic finesse and an understanding of the enemy's source of morale and pride. In Germany, the most threatening and caustic radio personality was Mildred Gillars, known to the troops as the foreboding Axis Sally. William Joyce, known to the British homeland as Lord Haw Haw, specialized in the same acidic diatribes against men and women of the Western military, broadcasting from Berlin and easily heard in London. Reports over the airwaves suggested that specific family members had died back home or that male siblings had been killed in action. Wives and girlfriends were reported to be unfaithful in a soldier's absence by agencies who claimed to be aware of such matters. Enemy assaults upon the Allies' willingness to fight were frequently followed with fictitious reports of American, British, or other collaborators' defeats. Dire threats were levied against those serving in specific locations, with precise military information invoked for enhanced credibility. Atop the calculated hatred lay a thin veneer of inspiring quips in order to provide a brief refreshment after the complete demonization of the enemy country. For Japan, a favorite quote was brought down as a historical axiom from the first emperor and his wish to see, quote, all 8 corners of the world under one roof. The almost instant appearance of grotesque propaganda after the U.S. entry into the war was made especially ironic and inauthentic, considering that Japan and the United States had recently collaborated as colleagues in the First World War. However, both nations needed an advertising campaign to weaken the will of the enemy, regardless of past associations, and war propaganda was advertising in its purest form.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.